You ever hear someone say, there's the easy way to do this and there's a hard way to do this? Let me show you the easy way to answer questions where you're asked to figure out the area under the curve. And in particular, where the question might be about a percentage, a proportion, or a percentile ranking. Take a look at these two questions. What percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or less? What percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more? Fairly similar. Let's take a look at the easy way to answer these types of questions. Here are steps for finding a proportion or a percentage, even a percentile ranking. Step number one, draw the picture. And as it says here, this is perhaps the most important step to be able to visualize what's being asked for. It takes what could be a challenging question and makes it much more straightforward. Step number two, calculate the z-score. Remember that the z-score tells us the number of standard deviations a value is away from the mean. If the z-score is positive, the value is above the mean. If the z-score is negative, the value is below the mean. Number three, refer to the z-table. There are at least two different possible z-tables. One z-table tells you the area between the mean and z, and the other z-table tells you the area beyond z. We'll talk about how to pick the correct z-table. And then number four, fill in the information and solve the problem. Let's apply these steps then to the first of these two questions. What percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or less? Since we're talking about using the z-table, it is very important that the distribution we're going to be working with is a normal distribution. And so here is that normal distribution. It's drawn as a bell-shaped curve. Also, you'll note that on this distribution I've drawn two vertical lines. One line represents the mean for IQ scores, 100, and the other line represents the value of 78. For those not familiar with the IQ test, they're designed and scored so that the mean IQ is 100 and the standard deviation typically is set to be 16. All right, so we have one line as mentioned for the mean of 100, the other vertical line for the value that's mentioned in this problem, 78. The last step is where we then divide this normal distribution into three areas. These areas are divided by these two separating lines. So you have area A, area B, and area C. So anytime you put the mean and you put the other line for the value, you'll divide your distribution into three areas. And now we're almost done. The very last step is fill in the area of the distribution that you're interested in. So we're interested in what percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or less. We're going to fill in this area right here. That tells us what we're going to focus on. And now we're good to go. Okay, so step number one, draw a picture. We've accomplished. We know that we're interested in people who have an IQ of 78 or less. Here's the distribution in its fullness. Here's the proportion of people that we're interested in. We know that this is not going to be a large group of people. It's less than half of the people. And now we just got to figure out what area corresponds to this area that's shaded in. Our step number two then is calculate the z-score, which as mentioned is the number of standard deviations a value is away from the mean. Here's our z-score formula. It is value, which would be the 78, minus the mean, which is 100, divided by a standard deviation, which is 16. So we work it out as 78, the value, minus 100, the mean, divided by the standard deviation of 16. That comes out to be negative 22 over 16. With the calculator, that turns out to be negative 1.375. Our z-tables only go to the hundredths place, so we can round up for this, and then it becomes negative 1.38. All right, so we've done step one, we've done step two. Step three, refer to z-table. As mentioned, there's two different z-tables. There's a z-table for the area between the mean and z, and notice here there's those two vertical lines again, area between the mean and z. And there's another z-table for the area beyond z. So we want to know which of these two z-tables to refer to. In terms of our drawing for number one, where we drew the picture, we can see that the area that we shaded in is the area beyond z. And also, as mentioned, our z-score is negative 1.38. Do you notice that there are no negative z-score numbers here? They're all positive. The reason why is it's because the normal distribution is symmetrical. So whatever is true for a positive z-score would also be true for a negative z-score. Okay, with that said, let's look up a negative 1.38, which since there are no negatives, we'll just look up 1.38. And here I've focused our attention on it, we see that the z-table along this column here, these z-scores go to the tenths place. So we see 1.3. And along the top, it goes to the hundredths place, 0.08. And we want 1.38. And that area, the corresponding area for area beyond z is 0.084. And so on our drawing, we have 0.084 referring to our shaded area. Now that 0.084 is a proportion. That is a value that ranges between 0, meaning no one, all the way up to 1, meaning everyone. 0.5 would be half. So our proportion of 0.084, that's a small proportion of the overall group that has an IQ of 78 or less. But our problem asked for percentage. It didn't ask for proportion. So then how do we go ahead and turn that proportion into a percentage? The answer is by multiplying it by 100. So 0.084 times 100 is 8.4. So our percentage is 8.4%. And that's our answer to this top question. What percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or less? Well, what about this bottom question? What percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more? Let's go through these same steps, but this time we'll answer the second question. Okay, so number 1, draw the picture. Well, that's already done. So here we go. We've drawn our picture. We have the line for 100, the mean. We have another line for 78, our value. And we're going to need to shade in the area that we care about. I'll shade it in with blue this time. So here it is shaded in blue. For what percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more? Here's 78. Everyone with an IQ of 70 or more has been shaded in. This is the area of the distribution that we care about for the second question. All right. So then how do we go about it from there? Before I continue, by the way, I'm going to put the answer to our previous question right here, 8.4. Okay, so that was at 8.4%. Now, as mentioned, we want to know what percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more, focusing on the blue. We already know what A is, but let's say we didn't know what A was. Do we know what C is? Can you guess what C is? C is half the distribution. So that proportion is always going to be, well, what's half of 1? It's 0.5, right? So it's going to be a 0.5. Okay, so I have that here, 0.5. Area C is 0.5. And by the way, the half the distribution is always going to be half. So to answer what percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more, again, I'm going to ignore the fact that I already know A. I have C, I just need to find out B. And area B corresponds to the area between the mean and Z. Okay, and what value am I working with? Because we need to move on to step 2, calculate the z-score. I'm working with the 78. So here's our z-score formula. We've already worked through what it is for 78. 78 is 1.38 standard deviations below the mean. So now I can go to the z-table and look up what proportion corresponds to a z-score of 1.38 standard deviations below the mean. Let's take a look at those z-tables. So do we want this z-table, area beyond z? No, because that doesn't correspond to what we're interested in, which again is the area between the mean and z. This is what we want, area between the mean and z right there. And we're going to look up the z-score of 1.38. So again, here's 1.3, and then we need the 0.08, and we're going to find out where those overlap. And the overlap, they come together here at 0.0416. So 1.3 over, 0.08 down, comes here, meets up at 0.0416. So that means that area B corresponds to 0.416. Okay, so then what percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more? We know, again, that area C is 0.5 because it's half the distribution. We took our z-score of negative 1.38, went to the z-table area between the mean and z, saw that this proportion was 0.416. We can simply add the 0.416 and the 0.5, and that will be the total proportion of people who have an IQ of 78 or more. So here we do the math. 0.416, that's area B, plus area C, which is 0.500, and that proportion is 0.916. Now let's ask for a percentage, not a proportion. So again, we're going to take this proportion and multiply it by 100, which is the same as moving the decimal place over 2. And our answer is 91.6%. So let's put that up here. So what percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or less? That's 8.4%. What percentage of people have an IQ of 78 or more? That's 91.6%. And if we add up parts A, that's 8.4, plus parts B and C, which is a 91.6, why, that's everything, right? A, B, and C, that would be 100%. So if you know what area A equals, and if you know what area B equals, and if you know what area C equals, you can always solve the problem very easily. And I guarantee you that one of these three areas will be 0.5. So that part's done. If you want to find out A and B, one of them will ask you for the area beyond Z. And it's pretty obvious because it's the area that moves away from the mean. The other will ask you for the area between the mean and Z, and that's pretty clear. And then again, you have the 0.5. So when you draw the picture, if you draw the picture and then you only need A, then you can just look up A, that is the area between the area beyond Z, and you're done. If you need B and C, then you'll add up C, which is the 0.5, plus the B, which is the area between the mean and Z. But the point is that this drawing will help guide you as to what you need to look up to solve the problem. Always draw the problem. Shade in the area that you care about. Refer to the Z table that corresponds to the shaded area. And you're done. So step 1, draw the picture. Step 2, calculate your Z-score. Step 3, refer to the appropriate Z table. Step 4, fill in the information and solve the problem. With the information right here in front of you, it becomes very straightforward then how to solve the problem. All right, wish you very best.